Are you a smart home buyer? Now, just because you might have bought a home before, or maybe this is your first time, you might think you know the experience and how the process works, but there is a very specific way to go about buying a home that can save you tens of thousands of dollars and headaches along the way. And I'm going to take you through a series of videos that explain all about this so that you can become what we call a smart home buyer. So if this is in your wheelhouse, stick with me, let's go. Hey, as always, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss out on anything going on or any market updates. My name is Gina. My team and I have been helping people move to the area for the last 11 years. So whether you're looking to make a move to the area, move locally, buy an investment property, or even sell your home, you can get a lot of information from our channel and we would love to help you make that move. So all of our information is in the description box below and we would love to hear from you. Okay, so let's talk about what it means to become a smart home buyer. So in this video and in this video series, we're going to go through a couple different specifics. And today is going to be what we would call the first step, the first category of being a smart home buyer. And I'm going to outline a couple different things in this video that you just need to consider and know that when you work with our team, we will go over and make sure that we understand the needs that you have in buying a home so that we can also become a smart home buyer with you. So the first one is to make sure that you always have a strategy. And what I mean by that is that you don't want to just go into buying a home as in, I just don't want to pay rent anymore and I would like to own my own home, so let's go buy a house. There's so many things to think about and to consider when buying a home. And when you get into that home, we want you to love it for many, many years and know that it was a really good investment for you. So let's go over what it means to have a strategy. The first thing is that we want to determine your timing and motivation, as do you. So, for example, when do you need to move? Do you have a restriction with a job or something that's going on in your life? Do you need to make sure that you're in your new home by a specific date? Or is it just, hey, anytime I find something, I'm good? Are you motivated in any other ways? Is someone maybe sick or you have to move for a specific life event? There are so many things to know. And if you explore this for yourself, it's very important to share this with your advisor or your agent or the person that's helping you purchase a home, because there are times when this information could be what makes or breaks you getting the home that you want. There are a lot of homes that will come up and not even hit the market before they're off the market. And if we, as maybe the ones that you go with in buying your new home, or your agent knows that there's a specific timeline that they need to work with for you, then they will be able to get these homes in front of you so that you are able to have a more wide variety and get to know that there's a lot more options for you than what you might just see online. Another part of having a strategy when you're buying a home buying strategy, we like to call it, is that you will have wants of what you want in your house, of what you want your life to look like when you purchase your home, and you will have needs. And wants and needs can be many times very different. So for example, you want to make sure that you know what is it that you really need in your new home, in your new place, in your new lifestyle, and what is it that would just be something that you would want to have, that would be nice to have. And once again, this is really important to share with the person or the team that is helping you purchase this property. So what are needs? Needs are things like, I need my master bedroom to be on the first floor because I can't walk up the stairs. I need a garage because I have equipment that I need to store away. I need to be 20 minutes from the airport because I travel every single day and I have to get on flights all of the time. So think of needs as like non-negotiables, things that you absolutely have to have in the property in order to purchase it. Now, wants, on the other hand, are things that would be awesome if you could have, but if they weren't necessarily there, but all your needs checked out, then these things could be give or takes. So like a really big one is, I would love a pool. I want a pool, or I don't want a pool. That's a want. I want a bonus room. I want I want to be near the beach, etc. Things like that. So when you know your wants and your needs, and everyone on your team, meaning you, your family, your lender, whoever you're working with, your agents, your advisors, we are all going to be using that information to make sure that we are collectively looking at the best opportunities for you so that when you get into that home, you enjoy it and it's gonna work for you for a long time. All right, now another aspect of being a smart home buyer is that you have to account for out-of-pocket expenses. And a lot of times when buyers go to buy their home, whether it be they haven't bought in a long time, or maybe you're buying your first home, or you're moving from state to state, these costs can vary. And there's different things in each area that you live in that you may want or need to pay for in order to make sure that your closing goes smoothly and you don't have any issues later down the road. Now, I'm going to throw up here a list of some of these things and briefly go over them, but we can always talk in detail about this. So if you have any specific questions, put those below and I'll make sure to get you a good answer. But some of the costs that you might not consider that are part of the process when purchasing a home is, number one, any costs associated with your loan. So that could be like loan origination fees. It could have anything to do with closing fees or bank fees, or anything to do with applications, looking into the loan, or even if you're doing something down the road where everything gets recorded, you also sometimes have recording fees. So that's one thing to consider, is anything and everything that has to do with that. If you're paying cash, obviously, that's not something that you would necessarily have to consider, but you do have to make sure to have cash at hand or reserves for some of these other things. The second one is your down payment. Obviously, if you purchase a home, most times you're always going to be putting down a down payment, and unless you're paying outright cash for the home, but most likely if you're getting a loan, you're going to be having a down payment. And that's typically 20% is a good rule of thumb. Of course, this varies depending upon what your loan option is and what you have decided to do. And that you can work out with the lender or your broker or someone who you trust to get this all set up for you. But consider it's about 20% of whatever your purchased price of the property is. You also have things like, once you actually have the home, you're going to want to inspect it. So you have inspection fees. Now, inspection fees can range anywhere from $300 to $500 up. And especially if the home has like a pool or a seawall, or, like a crawl space, or anything, and where you start now having to add on additional costs for inspecting the property. You also have costs for a lot of homes in Florida that are older to do with septic systems, and so you have inspection costs for that. You might consider, depending upon where you live, you might want to do a soil erosion type of inspection, or, to just check out the ground for possible sinkhole activity or things like that. You might consider getting a survey so that you know the exact property lines of the potential property that you're getting. So there's a lot of added costs. Now, although you don't have to necessarily do all of these, it is something to consider, and it does cost money to do this. So if you are a person that wants to have this information at your hands when you're buying the property, not all the time will you get this covered, nor will it come with the property. So it is going to be an additional expense. A good rule of thumb for additional expenses could be anywhere from 3 to 5%. And typically that could cover most of the expenses that you have. Then you also have title. When you go to close, you have title fees, you have appraisal fees, things like that, where you're going to want to know certain things about the property and that are going to be required, especially if you have a loan. You're going to have to get an appraisal on the property to make sure that everything matches up and we can actually close at the value of the home that they're asking for. You also have, like I said, title fees and costs associated with making sure that the title search is clean and there's no liens on the property. That's really, really important and something that you don't want to skip. And that is going to be included in the costs of buying the home. Now, while not all of these, like I said, are going to be upfront, sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. So usually when you work with an advisor or an agent, they will outline this for you so that you know what to expect. But just know that you need to have some sort of reserve set aside up front so that when these costs and these inspections come up, you aren't stressed out and worried that you can't cover the cost of them and that you might now not be able to get the home that you want to have to live in. Because sometimes when this process is moving quickly and there's a lot of offers on the table and things that have to be pushed through fast, you want to make sure that nothing stands in the way of you being able to get the home that you want. And so these are just things to consider. The other thing to consider as well is that you're going to have closing costs. I would typically stay anywhere from 1 to 3%, but err on the higher side just in case. So I always say when you're purchasing a property, come to the table with some reserves so that you can pay for some of these inspections and things that are going to be needed throughout the process. And an easy way to do this, if you have never bought a home and you kind of want to know the costs, or if you have bought a home and maybe you're moving or you haven't purchased in a long time, we as agents and advisors can offer you an estimated cost on some of these. You can also speak directly with your lender or your broker, and they can also offer these costs to you so that you can get a good idea when you're going to be purchasing in a specific range, what these might cost you. So keep in mind, that's part of the smart homebuyer strategy that you would want to do. Now, part of the process obviously is how you're going to pay for the house, right? And when you are strategizing through this whole process, one of the things that you will always hear if you talk to an advisor or an agent is we're going to say, have you been pre-approved? Or are you paying cash? And the reason we ask that question is because this is specifically how the process is going to go down the line. And these types of loans or options that you might have will impact how offers are written, how aggressive we can go after properties and things like that. So making sure that all your ducks are in a row ahead of time will definitely help you when it comes time to making the offer and making sure that you can get the home that you want when you want it. We have seen far too many times where someone thought they were prepared, and then when it came down to the last hour, they weren't, and had almost cost them, in some cases, it completely cost them the ability to buy the house. And in some cases, we were able to save for that at the last minute. And in some cases, it was totally out of our hands, and the bank or the specific lender they were using was not able to get what they needed. And we don't want that to happen to you. And I'm sure that you don't want that to happen either. So just take into account that when you are going to go into this process, get in touch with a broker, get in touch with a lender. If you have cash, make sure that you have that and you have a letter or something detailed that will tell you, here's what I can do and here are my options. That is going to make you a really smart home buyer. Okay, now this next one is a little bit funny because you would think it'd be very obvious, but not all the time do people consider this. And that is that when you are purchasing a home by yourself, obviously you know your needs and your wants. When you're purchasing a home for yourself and your family, whether that be immediate family, extended family, or you have different ages and people that are going to be living in this home with you, what you want to consider is the needs of everybody involved. So what is your whole lifestyle going to look like? How do you want to live on a day-to-day basis? If you absolutely love a neighborhood and you absolutely love the home, but it's an hour and a half for your husband, let's say, or your wife to drive to work, and that is causing a ton of stress for them, is this home really worth it? Would it be better to live maybe a little bit closer? What about your kids? Do they need to walk to school? What transportation is available to them if you can't bring them or pick them up? All these things of lifestyle come into play. And we always encourage you to just jot this down or have a conversation together and determine what this is, because a lot of times you don't think about the day-to-day when you're purchasing. You're sort of focused on, I like these properties, I like this neighborhood. But when you really start to take into consideration everything, if we have to move fast on a property or you need to move quickly on something, we want to make sure that all of that has already been dialed in so that that doesn't stand in the way. Plus, if you share that, like I mentioned, with your advisor or your agent, we can always make sure that we're specifically focusing in these areas. And if we see something, like I said, come up that might not even be going to be able to hit the market because we know it's going to be so popular, we can tell you about it and you might have an in that a lot of other people don't. So just make sure to have that conversation and share that with your team. Okay, another aspect of having a strategy is that you don't want to rely 100% on your agent or your advisor knowing the strategy. You also want to have a part in understanding the process of home buying. Now, most times, especially if you are working with our team, we provide a document that will show you exactly how the process goes and what might come in what steps and with what deadlines. We are always looking out for your best interests in knowing that if something needs to be done by a specific date, we're going to make sure that you are aware and know so that you don't miss any deadlines and that nothing is going to impact you negatively in purchasing the home. But as a smart home buyer, you also want to be aware of this process, especially down the road when it comes to having to just follow up on things, or if you need to make a change, maybe in the middle of a transaction, you kind of know the steps. As always, we will guide you through this, but make sure that if you don't know the process, if you're unclear with it, or if you just want to get a good explanation, ask us, ask your lender. They have a process as well. The title company has a process as well. Everybody has a process, and you should make sure you understand that, because I promise you your stress level will go down when you know how the steps are going to be taken and where everybody plays a role. And as always, I like to call it a team, because at the end of the day, we are a team and we are all doing this together. Because if one thing doesn't happen, the next thing can't happen, and everybody is impacted by that. So just make sure you understand the process and that you don't just leave it to fate for this whole thing to go through. And the final part of a home buying strategy is my favorite. If you know me, you will know that I love to have a plan. And when you have a strategy in place and a plan of action, most likely you're going to get what you want when you want it. And that especially is good to sit down and create a plan, because then everybody knows what are the intentions, what do we have to work with, What if these things come up? What if these unforeseen things happen? And how are we all going to work through this? How do you want to be contacted? How do you want to be, do you want to be an integral part of the process, or do you not want to be an integral part of the process? This is a conversation that you will have, or that you should have, with the person who is representing you, to go over all of the details with you, and you to go over all the details with them of how the home buying process as a whole is going to work. So although some of you might not like the plan, even a quick conversation with a quick outline is better than nothing, because we have seen more than once times when this has been extremely helpful and times when people have lost out. And once again, we don't want that to be you. So make sure to sit down and just have this conversation with your agent, with your advisor, so that everyone's on the same page and you leave feeling a lot less stressed than you might down the road, because buying a home can get extremely emotional and you start to get attached to the place or the thing or the neighborhood. And then when things start to happen and money's involved, it becomes more sometimes than you expect. And that's why we're here. We're here to walk you through this. And when we have a plan and we're all sitting down and we know the next steps to take, and we've already sort of thought about it and talked about it, the process will go a lot smoother. So I promise you that this is the best way to do it. We have done it for a long time, and I promise you that we're going to take good care of you if you use our team. Okay, so now in the next segment, we're going to talk about real estate as an investment. So stick with me in this series because you're going to want to know about this. We're going to talk about buying a home as an investment versus just buying a home, and why even if the home is yours, you want to make sure that you're still buying the home as an investment, and why that benefits you in the long run. So I will see you next time. If you have any questions, throw those below. As always, I'm here to help, and we are here to help you find the perfect place to live. See you next time.